Now, I mean, the way he explained that, because it's like most people, like we went to the Cinderella concert the other night, and I can guarantee you that half the people that were there probably didn't buy the new Sebastian Bach who opened up for him. They wanted to hear all the Skid Row songs, even though he hasn't been in Skid Row for, 15, 20 years. So, yeah, people want to go, and they just want to hear the songs they know. And like you said, if there's a new song here and there, yeah, we'll play one song, and then we'll load it up with the older stuff. Makes total sense.
I mean, and it's...
Yeah, so that's our philosophy. I mean, that's kind of like our, I hate to say this, but, we are artists, so we do a lot from our gut and our feeling. And we also are a business, too. And, a lot of people say, why would you re-release stuff, old stuff that we already have on other records? And we did that for several reasons, because Sony had done some greatest hits, quote-unquote, things, which we never sanctioned. It's just that they owned the catalog, and they threw a bunch of stuff together, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not a true FireHouse greatest hits, number one. Number two, the Sony machine is a lot of red tape to get through it if it needs to be licensed to a movie soundtrack or something like that. And we wanted to have control of certain tunes in a format that was new, modern production, everything like that. Also something that a fan at a show could grab that whole collection from us and not from Sony Music. So that was the motivation behind that. It's just like we need to free those songs up for ourselves for licensing and, sync for soundtracks and things like that. And we also really did it for fans because they were crying out for certain favorite things all in one collection that up until we did this wasn't there. And none of them were sanctioned by the band until the album Full Circle, which was, as you mentioned, released just last year.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's going to be more true to the set that you guys are currently playing when you're touring, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's really dictated by the region that we play. Like, for example, in Korea, Overnight Sensation is a really big hit because it was re-recorded by a Korean artist, and it was like generated a lot more excitement about it and brought it back into the mainstream over there. And, when we played, say, a lot of places in Asia or Europe, we have different hits in different areas, different songs that they want to hear. In the U.S., we keep it heavier. We did win the American Music Award for Best New Hard Rock Heavy Metal Band, although we're best known probably in the States for some of the ballads. But we go out there and we try to bring it live and show people that we are that hard rock band. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, just so people out there know, it was 1991 you guys won the American Music Award for
That's
best,
right.
Yeah, and then also Metal Edge magazine also gave you a best new band in that same year too. So you guys definitely have the recognition.
Well, speaking of that year, CJ, you guys were on top of the world in 1990, and then all of a sudden, boom, Nirvana hits, and the grunge scene comes on, and it just pretty much wiped out everything of this type of music, it seems, overnight. And you as a musician, what did you guys think of that? Or do you think it was just like another band coming on the scene or whatever that was a little bit different? Or how did most of the bands that were around at the time you guys released your debut react to what happened back in like 91?
Well, for us, that American Music Award you mentioned, that we won the Best New Hard Rock Heavy Metal Band, was against Alice in Chains and Nirvana.
Okay.
And we won. Dick Clark walked across the stage at rehearsals and shook our hands. I should have known. We never thought we would, because it was sort of a changing of the guard. And the music, our musical genre did implode upon itself right after that. And a lot of it was Beavis and Butthead driven too, I mean, there were so many things where it was just uncool to like that kind of music. And fortunately for us, we had cultivated a large overseas market. So our first album went multi-platinum in the U.S., and, in our career now we have 16 gold and platinum records around the world, too. And the second one went platinum. The second one, Hold Your Fire, and that was kind of like going down, right? But our third album came out in 1995, and it caught a lot of people with their pants down in the radio industry and the music industry in general, because we had a hit called I Live My Life For You, which charted at number 23 on the Hot 100, the Billboard charts. So we're talking a top 25 hit from a hair band, quote unquote, in 1995.
Yeah, you were one of the few bands, actually, that stayed true to your form and what you were doing, and I know that's the album you brought in Ron Nevison to work with, correct?
Yes, Ron Nevison was the producer, and Chris Lord Algie mixed it, and he's done everybody. I mean, I love the mix. That's my favorite mix from Firehouse, and working with all those guys was certainly an experience, learning experience. But, yeah, for us, it imploded sort of in the United States, and a lot of bands just had the carpet pulled right out from under them. We were able to sustain our careers by, Asia embraced that song, I Live My Life For You. It's like it's a bigger hit for us over most parts of the world than Love of a Lifetime is. I mean, we drop out the last chorus. We might not be able to carry on a conversation with people in most places of the world, but they'll sing that song to us. And then we followed it with a Good Acoustics album, which just exploded, especially in Southeast Asia and Asia for us. So that kept us going until it was like, hey, you know what? That was the music I grew up with. That's the stuff that, we had at our high school prom or whatever. And that's the stuff we used to party to. That's the stuff I got laid to. And, people rebelled at what the music industry was saying, hey, it's uncool to like that stuff, I think people brought it back around, and there was a demand for it again, especially on the live front. And then we started having, Hair Bangers Ball and, Hair Nation, and all these different radio stations started reliving that. And there's been a resurgence, and now I think we're kind of in a little bit of a renaissance here.
Well, I think what's going on right now is I think there was that generation that grew up during that grunge era that wanted no part of the previous generation's music, and thus it became uncool to listen to it. And I think that generation has now grown up, and the next generation that's out here right now wants nothing to do with the previous generation, and all the stuff prior is now having that resurgence or renaissance, like you're saying, and people are going, you know what, this stuff is really good, I really like this, and that's why you're probably seeing that when you're doing these summer fair tours and all these tours that you're doing in the States. The people coming out, young and old, really want to hear their music, because I think there's been that resurgence and a renaissance. I think it's now, like you said, come full circle. People want to hear the music, and they want to hear the music played, because really the music, for a lot of people, it's timeless. It strikes a chord with them emotionally, and for other reasons, it also brings back memories, too. I know it brings back a lot of memories for me, exactly what you're saying, getting laid, or good times, the partying, and everything else. All that is fond memories for me. So I think that's what's going on now, and just to have you guys out there touring with some of these other bands, I think that's probably more or less the most important thing, and that's what I'm looking forward to, is seeing these bands playing, seeing your guys play.
Amen. That sounds great. Yeah, I'm really thankful for that resurgence, that it wasn't just a complete shutout. And how could it be? It was such a strong musical era for so long, and I don't think any genre of music, even disco, wasn't shunned for, so many years, where it was just, it's totally uncool if you like this, man, I don't know why that happened, and I don't really care. It's all in the past now, and as I said, we were able to, perpetuate our career because, we weren't just doing it in America.
Well, I think people just want to have fun listening to music again, like you work all day, then you go to a couple of your shows in the summertime. It's a good time. Like we went to the concert the other night, and it was fun. A lot of people the same age as us that grew up in the 90s and the 80s, they just want to go back and have a good time, which is what that music was all about back then. And I think in the 90s it kind of lost that a little bit, but like you said earlier, we kind of needed to change the guard a little bit, and then it's come back full circle somewhat, and people still want to go out, have a good time, and listen to some good music or whatever, and then just go home and not have to worry about it.
Right, and so as long as they continue to come out and support that kind of music in our band, and as long as we're physically capable and able to do this, then you can expect to see Firehouse.
So have you done any of those rock cruises yet?
Yeah, we did one last year with the Monsters of Rock cruise. We had toured with Cinderella many times. They were on board. We've toured with Tesla, obviously, many times. They were on board also. There were tons of bands on that. It was called the Monsters of Rock Cruise. It went out February of last year. And we had 2 performances, one in, I don't know, everybody did one like in a bar or on a deck or something, and then we had one on the main stage in the big theater of the ship.
Yeah. So what's it like being around fans the whole time you're on the cruise? I mean, you're performing at a certain time each night, then all of a sudden the rest of the time you're on the ship, there's fans everywhere and there's bands walking around everywhere. What's the atmosphere like for that?
Did you say fans and bands?
Yeah, fans and bands. Or you got all the bands, I would imagine, are walking around on the cruise ship too, right? When they're not performing.
Or are you guys flying in on helicopters?
No, it's really cool actually, because you know what? Everybody's out there and they respect what's going on. Also, there's enough bands and there's enough bands where, you know, there's some fans over here with this band and then some fans will come to you and then they rotate. And with the bands, most of us who have been in it as long as we have been fortunate enough to be in it, we know each other. So it's like a big family reunion. Hey, how you doing, man? What's been going on? How's the family? That kind of stuff, you know?
Very, 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 very cool.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to ask you, and is your solo side project that you got going on. Was it Rubicon Cross? Am I saying that right?
That's right. Well, my guitar player and bass player from England say Rubicon.
Okay.
Rubicon Cross. But I say Rubicon because I'm from the United States of America.
Well, that's the way I say it.
So the band has 2 different names depending on where you're at.
Right. But I met the guitar player in Spain. They were supporting FireHouse a couple years back, and people had asked me quite often, hey, CJ, you know, when are you going to do a solo record? Do you have any, intention of doing something like that? And my answer back in those days was that I was able to get all of my creative energy out and my ideas through FireHouse. Well, that changed, and I don't know if you've heard any of the Rubicon Cross stuff.
Actually, I've heard the whole album, all 5 tracks that you've released. So.
Well, yeah, it's not an album yet. We did a
EP.
4-song limited edition EP, and that got greeted with so many accolades and such positive press. And here's the key point: every single article, every single review didn't have anything bad to say about it. And instead of calling us hair band or melodic metal or anything like that, they were categorizing it as modern hard rock. Now that, to me, and I know...